What's the grossest thing you've done for an A+? When Professor Clayton asked me to come to his house for dinner to discuss my final grade, I knew exactly what that meant. The guy had been staring at me all semester with those creepy divorced dad eyes, and now he wanted his shot. But I needed that A+ to graduate with honors and get into law school. I put on my shortest skirt and the push-up bra that made me look like I had actual cleavage. My roommate Sarah watched me get ready with her mouth hanging open. I told her it was just dinner to discuss my grade, but we both knew better. Professor Clayton was in his 40s with gray streaks in his beard, and always wore those wool blazers that smelled like mothballs. He'd lean over my desk during exams and breathe on my neck while checking my work. The drive to his house took 20 minutes and I spent the whole time practicing my excuse to leave early. I'd tell him my roommate was having a crisis or that I had food poisoning. Something believable but urgent. My hands were shaking when I rang the doorbell. A woman answered. Not just any woman, but a gorgeous blonde in yoga pants holding a dish towel. Behind her, I could see a normal living room with family photos on the walls and toys scattered on the carpet. "You must be Violet," she said with a huge smile. "Arthur's told us so much about you. Come in, come in." My brain couldn't process what was happening. This was Professor Clayton's wife. He had a wife. A hot wife who seemed genuinely happy to see me. I stood there in my hooker outfit feeling like the world's biggest idiot. Did these people want a three-way? "Arthur, Violet's here," she called out. Professor Clayton appeared from the kitchen wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the cook." He looked at my outfit and his eyebrows went up, but he didn't say anything gross. Instead, he shook my hand like we were at a business meeting. "Violet, thanks for coming. This is my wife Janet, and this is our son Andy." That's when I noticed the kid in the wheelchair by the TV. He looked about 17 with the same dark hair as his dad, but his body was twisted in ways that made it clear he couldn't control his muscles properly. An oxygen tank was attached to the back of his chair with tubes running to his nose. "Hi, Violet," Andy said. His speech was slow and took effort, but his eyes were sharp and focused. He was wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt that matched the one I had at home. We sat down for dinner and I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I still thought maybe they were swingers or wanted me to join some weird cult, but dinner was just normal pot roast and vegetables while they asked about my classes and career plans. Andy tried to ask me about the new Marvel movie, but talking seemed to exhaust him. Finally, over dessert, Professor Clayton cleared his throat. "Here it comes," I thought. The weird proposition that would make sense of this whole night. "Violet, we invited you here because we need a favor," he said. "Andy's prom is next week and he doesn't have a date." I stared at him, then at Janet, then at Andy who was looking at his plate like it was the most interesting thing in the world. "We know it's a lot to ask," Janet jumped in, "but Arthur said you wear superhero shirts to class and love the same movies Andy does. We thought maybe you'd consider it. Just as friends, of course." My face burned with shame. Here I was, dressed like I was going to work a street corner, and these people just wanted someone to take their disabled kid to prom. Professor Clayton must have mentioned me because I was one of the only students who'd be nice enough to say yes. "I'll pay for your dress and everything," Professor Clayton added quickly, "and dinner wherever you want to go." Andy finally looked up at me. "You don't have to," he said. I know it's weird. Something about the defeat in his voice made my chest tight. I thought about all the proms I'd gone to with my quarterback boyfriends and how I'd taken it for granted that someone would always want to go with me. "I'd love to go with you," I heard myself say. The next week flew by. Janet took me dress shopping and we found this gorgeous blue gown that covered everything my slutty outfit hadn't. Andy and I texted about Marvel theories, and he was actually funnier than most guys I knew. When prom night came, I felt weirdly excited. The dance itself was at a hotel ballroom downtown. Andy looked sharp in his tux even sitting in the wheelchair. We slow danced with me kind of swaying while holding his hands. Other kids stared, but Andy didn't seem to notice or care. He was too busy explaining why Iron Man's arc reactor should have killed him with radiation poisoning. Around 10 o'clock, some kids from my economics class invited us to an after party. I almost said no, but Andy begged